Today's video is sponsored by Mal's Chinese food that he left in the last video. Go check that out if you'd like.
Flawless product placement.
Thanks, Mal. Hi, I'm Kat.
I'm Arden 13.
Welcome to our show, World Tiger.
Building Dragon.
Today we are continuing with some of World Anvil's summer camp prompts.
Summer camp is a program set up by the World Anvil team to support the community as well as world building in general.
There'll be a total of 33 prompts all throughout the month of July, so if you want to win some prizes for your submissions, go check it out.
World Anvil is a free in-browser tool that has everything a world builder may ever need.
They also have some pretty incredible subscription options, so go check those out as well.
Totally worth it, totally affordable. Please consider checking them out if you're interested. But in any case, let's get on to the prompt. What is the prompt?
Today we have to describe an apex predator from our world. So how does it survive? What is its prey? All that cool stuff.
Cool. So what world are you going to use?
I'm still using Theatrim. What about you?
I'm going to use Ellecrid.
Awesome.
So we have set ourselves up with some parameters to complete these prompts. Each of us has 30 minutes to answer.
Each of our submissions have to be at minimum 300 words.
After the 300 words in the 30 minutes, we're going to come back together and share what we came up with.
Some of our best ideas have come from collaboration.
Absolutely. Anyway, let's get to it.
Time skip!
And we are back 30 minutes later.
I liked this one.
I really liked this one. I was telling her when we were working on this, I think we were probably like maybe 3 minutes in. I was like, ooh,
yeah.
I really like this
yeah.
one. And that was kind of the feeling that I took throughout the entire thing. I will say, and I'll probably mention this a couple times when I'm talking about mine, that World Anvil had me so deep in the thinking.
Oh yeah.
Like
no.
from the supplementary prompts in the my god, I went hard on
Well, why
this
don't you
one.
start? Because I've been starting off with mine. So why don't we start off with yours?
Okay. So we had to come up with an apex predator in our world, and so my mind immediately went to, in Ellecrid there is a island continent called Isone, and historically Isone has been like in the earliest days was controlled by it was a territory of the giants, and so as of right now it's more or less like there's only one city on Isone. It's very wild, it's very tumultuous, just people can't go out beyond the city very easily to populate or to colonize because the entire continent is home to giant monsters. It's basically Monster Hunter World, the continent.
Yes.
And I had so much fun with this. So I created the apex predator that I created. Name pending, I kind of like the idea of it, but name pending is the Isone Hounds. Basically, in the earliest days, in Ellecrid, dragons, in terms of high power hierarchy, dragons reign supreme. Underneath them are a number of other things, but like in those earliest days, a lot of, I'm pretty sure the Forgotten Realms have the whole dichotomy between the dragons and the giants as two warring factions. Well, the giants lost that war in my world too. But in the midst of that war, when they fought that war, they bred these hounds. The Isone Hounds, which are referred to as the Isone Hounds, and they're these massive, like, stories tall, like, canines. Stories tall. I think so. Legends say that the largest Isone Hound was 10 stories tall. When these things are born, they are born, and I'm going through some details here. I'm not really necessarily going in order. But when these things are born, they are often mistaken for full-grown direwolves. But the only thing that really sets them apart to say, oh no, that's not a direwolf, are the fact that they have 3 horns on their heads.
Aww.
So, but when they're babies, they're like these little like mounds. They're not like the grotesque horns or whatever. They're just like these little mounds. So everyone's like, oh, it's a big ass direwolf. It's a direwolf with some weird horns, whatever.
And then it keeps growing.
So the thing that really sets apart the Isone Hounds, and I went hard in the paint on this one, is the fact that they have these 3 horns, 2 that come out of their jaws, like right around here-ish, and then 1 at the top of their head. And they kind of curve a little bit, so they're almost tusk-like, but they have these horns, and these horns aren't just for edgy show, they actually like play a role in their sensory. But other things that kind of set them apart is that on their paws, normally, like cats and dogs have like the single like digit or the single like a joint in their digits. They have 2, so they have a little bit more of a grip sort of a situation. Also, higher up, they kind of have like an opposable thumb-like digit.
With claw?
With claw.
Yeah.
With claw. Which is freaky to see, but I think the most freaky thing, aside from the horns and these digits, is the fact that their eyes aren't forward set like a wolf or like a normal canine. They're like a horse. They're on their sides. So they have like an expanded field of vision.
No.
I had so much fun with this. I didn't expect to have this much fun with it. But going into, I guess, more of their sensory things, I got stuck on the sensory because I started thinking about that a little bit more. They have, their ears are very canine. However, they're a little bit more, I would almost argue to be bat-like in the sense that they're kind of large and more like bat-like ears, or not necessarily elephant ears, but they can catch more sound. They're very.
Oh, so they're facing more out.
They're facing more out.
To the side. Got
versus
it.
to the side, and they're just used very much for tracking things by auditorily. They have an extended range of vision thanks to their eye placement. They also can smell. They can track a scent up to 10 miles away. They're big. They're big.
Yeah.
They're big. They are big boys.
Big boys.
Big boys. But the thing that I was really excited about that I put in terms of the sensory having to do with their horns is the fact that their horns have like these sensory nodes in them, kind of the way that a cat's whiskers work, so they can use them to kind of like work their way around because they can't see in the dark. So like if they're in a cave, if they're in a dense forest, they're in the dead of night, they can use those to kind of like feel their way around. And I really
liked them. Now, are they, because I noticed on World Anvil they did have an option called current status, and you could click if this species is extinct. Are they still around, roaming Ellecrid and Isone?
I saw that option and I'm pretty sure I clicked. They are ostensibly extinct. They still are. You can still probably find one out in the wild, but they're not as like densely populated as like your wolves or whatever. These are creatures, relics. I talk about it in the kind of in the vignette a little bit. They are relics of their past. They're relics of basically the first age, and we're now in the fifth. Like thousands of years have passed, and where evolution would normally like improve a creature, they've kind of diminished in a way. Giants aren't really, even the giants have diminished in Ellecrid. Like they're not as populous as they used to be, and so like without their masters, the hounds have kind of become more feral. They're just like kind of running around and they're getting hunted down.
Okay.
Their tusks are worth a lot of money.
I'm sure.
The other thing that I mentioned in here is that, and I literally, like when the timer went off, I was typing it, is that because they're more naturally, their habitation is more in the frigid north kind of area, temperate forest and mountain peaks and stuff, they have a really thick, dense, furry coat of fur. And I was saying that on the average person, if somebody were to have a full length coat of it, it's as heavy as plate mail.
Oh boy.
They're heavy. Heavy boys.
But I mean, you could probably walk out into a blizzard in that and not feel a thing.
Not feel a thing.
Right.
Not feel a thing. The other thing that I have in here, I love they have the lifespan. The average lifespan on these things is like 80 years. The average height is 40 to 60 feet. They're huge. Yeah. They're massive. And then their weight I kind of put between 3,200 and 5,600 pounds. I think that might actually be on the light side. I'll have to look into that a little bit. They're big.
Right, they're really
huge.
big.
And I went into this just thinking like, I need an apex predator, so my mind immediately went to Isone because of the whole Monster Hunter theme. And then I was like, big puppy. Ooh.
With horns.
Yeah, that's essentially my thought process, and I think that's about it in terms of like
Question
everything.
for you: did the giants, were they just for like tracking when the giants were still around using them? Were they just for tracking, or could I see art of a giant riding an Isone Hound into battle?
You could definitely see art of a giant riding an Isone Hound into battle.
Good.
The idea was that they were bred for war, and you could find an Isone Hound going toe to toe with a dragon. Like
I was thinking that
was
yeah,
the
with
plan.
how big they were, like
That was the plan. Like if the hound, it would work the same way like a hunter and his hounds would. Like the hounds
Right.
would coax out the dragon, and the giant would come in and
yeah,
deal the blow or
thing.
whatever. But like
they could hold
they
their
could
own.
hold their own against a dragon, despite the fact that the worst people for them to, or the worst dragons to go up against them in terms of. Like the dragons would just have the worst time would be like the silver and the white dragons.
Right.
White dragons especially because they're tiny. They're smaller in comparison to all other dragons. And these things are like, I don't care
Here
about
we
your
go,
cold
yeah.
breath, and I'm massive. Like, let's go.
Right. Oh gosh.
The other fun detail that I wanted to throw in here, that I wanted to mention, and I will call it for today, is their horns don't stop growing. So they constantly have to like shave down their horns and like groom themselves in order to like maintain the size of their horns. Otherwise, they just get so long and
Then
massive.
they can't.
And yeah, it's hard for them to like hold their heads up. They're like a newborn baby. But like, it also in my head I'm starting to think of like they had a part about like legends and historical context and like maybe there was one hound who like never groomed his horns, so by the end of his life before he was felled they were just massive tusks that he would just like skewer dragons with. I really like this. So I'm gonna come down.
Right.
Tell me about yours.
Sure thing.
Because you mentioned something that I thought was awesome.
Oh no, go back. Stay right where you are. Okay. All right. So, I decided to go with something for for Theatrim, there is a country that is basically covered in just desert. So it's just a desert wasteland area. And so I wanted to create kind of a predator that would survive in that environment, in a really harsh environment. What would that look like? But I wanted to create something terrifying that you just don't want to see coming up at you. So they're in one of my favorite shows of all time is The Dark Crystal. You have those landsliders, or landstriders, which are huge, but they're herbivores.
Tall. They're really
tall. Yeah. But they're herbivores. So I thought, great, make them carnivores and give them a scorpion tail. So, they are these towering creatures. I'm thinking 10 to 20 feet tall, depending on, how big they are. And they are going through just avium, and they kind of hang out on the outskirts of civilization, because that's where all the food is. So, another note I added in here is that because they're in a desert, there's not a lot of food out in the desert, right? It's a desert. There's not a lot of prey to go after. And maybe you just don't want to deal with the human empire and you don't want to deal with people. What are you gonna do? Eat your own kind. So not only are you dealing with they're called death striders. Not only are you dealing with death striders that are 10 feet tall scorpions, but you're also dealing with the fact that they eat their own kind. So the ones that survive and that are coming for you are the most adept in combat.
I'm so uncomfortable. I'm so incredibly uncomfortable with this.
So, yeah, these creatures are a menace to society and shouldn't be around. And anyone who kind of like brings back their head, and they're covered in that. How is it pronounced? The
Carapace?
No, it's Chitin.
Chitterin?
That thing where it's scorpion shell. Yeah, they're covered in that, which you can make armor out of.
Oh my god.
So you will have people in avium just walking around in this armor, with their head as a mask, as you do. But they're huge. They got 4 legs. Their legs split in 2 spots, kind of like how a scorpion does. how scorpion do. They got 2 pincher claws that kind of extend down for lots of grabbing and pinching needs. The females also have lots of smaller pincer grabby things on their bellies. That way when they give birth, they can kind of hold, it almost creates like a basket nest for their young when they're carrying their young around. They give live birth. And so they're running around, so just scorpions and stuff like that. I don't know I don't know if you get into this issue when you're world building and you're researching creatures and stuff like that. You have to look up like, okay, how do baby scorpions come to existence? And so I had to research that in the 30 minutes, and that was fun. You don't like scorpions, or I don't think anybody likes.
I love scorpions. I think scorpions are dope. I would love to have a pet scorpion. I would never touch it.
No.
I would never hold it.
They're
I would
pretty.
I would just keep it in its terrarium and be like, and admire it from like, with a, it's the sheet of glass.
Yeah.
And then another sheet of glass.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe a gun. Like, just to keep a distance, because I will admire its beautiful lethality from a distance.
Yeah.
But what you have described is nothing short of horrifying.
Right. So they are desert striders, but also called death striders, and for obvious reasons. Their eyesight kind of sucks in the sunlight, but they have acute night vision as well as infrared light, kind of like snakes. So you have to deal with that too. They don't really come out during the daytime to increase the horror of them. They kind of like bury themselves in the sand during the day, but then they pop out at night, and that's where you have your issues. I don't like this. I went into Anvil's got this whole section on like genetics and reproduction, growth rates and stages. So I kind of went into all of that in there. The prompt for today did talk about eating habits and like how they kind of survive out in the wild, but I wasn't able to really go into that as far as in this part of the prompt, but I do have that in mind where it's like, I mean, there's not much out in the desert. You've got people, maybe a couple small animals, and other death striders.
I did mention, I don't want to like take away from yours, but I didn't get to that part either. I was too like enthralled with like creating the actual creature.
Right.
But I did mention the fact that like they don't necessarily have heightened intelligence where they can speak.
Mm-hmm.
However, they do exhibit almost an instinctual technique when it comes to like creating strategy and fortifying their own like homes for like home security.
Yeah.
So like they have sometimes they'll dig pits around their home and fill them with like sharpened sticks and the bones of their prey to like, if some random Joe Schmo comes walking out, I'm gonna fight this thing, and then falls in the pit.
Yep.
But
for mine, it was the male desert striders will make these kind of fortresses and these nesting areas in the sand to kind of keep females safe while they're doing the baby thing, and then the females kind of just run them out, and that's where they hang out for. That's kind of where they get their homes, but that's all I've got set up so far.
I'm so uncomfortable.
Yeah, no. Oh, that's the other thing I added in here. The scorpion tails, it can either go like above, like how a normal scorpion would, so that would increase their height by probably another 5-ish feet, or they can make them move them underneath, so you have to deal with the pincer coming at you from underneath the desert strider. And it just depends on how they're feeling that day.
Oh God, I am so uncomfortable with this.
But yeah, I wanted to take the gentle, nice creatures of the land striders from the Dark Crystal and just corrupt them and make them not good, nice things.
Because I have in my head the image of the land striders.
Yeah, just
from
give it.
Age of Resistance.
Yeah.
Like they're not cute.
Mm-mm.
They're not cute looking. They're kind of just.
They're not pretty.
They're not pretty, but they get their job done. They
Right.
do what they need to do, and they're useful. But
So take all the usefulness of it and make it lethal.
I'm just trying to look at that thing because again, they're not built in the same way that like a scorpion is, but like with those long legs.
Mm-hmm.
And that little body.
Yeah.
With a oh God, that's.
Oh, and pictures. Don't forget, there's pictures up front too.
Oh, and the females have more.
Yes,
Oh,
underneath.
I hate
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I hate that. Oh, I'm not even. Oh God.
I'm gonna draw it, and we'll show pictures of it in the video.
It'll be around.
It'll be
here.
around here somewhere when I'm describing it. I don't know if we can do this. I'd love to add an audio clip because I have a very distinct way that I want them to sound.
If we can find the audio, if clip, if you can make the audio clip, we will play it in 3, 2, 1. Do you see how terrifying these things are?
Super scary. Yes.
Oh God!
Imagine
I hate
that
it.
creeping up on you in the middle of the night. That's all you hear in the distance. And
I
you're
just,
like, oh, no.
I just made a massive
They're
good
coming.
boy.
Yeah.
I just
You
made
made a really great, awesome, nice
I made a
person.
massive good boy with horns.
I made a big bug.
And you made a big. Oh God! I'm sorry to have cut you off there, but that's so. Ugh! I hate bugs. I hate bugs. Oh,
I'm
why are they
proud.
tall? Why are they tall?
Tall.
I'm gonna keep
You
doing
got a
this.
lot of
unless we-
legs.
Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
No,
'Cause
that's
I'm just gonna
it.
keep
I'm just
squirming.
enjoying you. Like
I'm just gonna keep
freaking out. Yeah, no. At this point, this is great. I like yours. I want to see a good boy with horns, and I want to see a giant riding him into battle. And I want to see a little giant kid and his first hound, and the
Little playing.
Oh no, that could be a story all on its own.
Oh, God.
We'll end on a good note.
We'll end
There's
on a-
no good note here. It's just death.
So yeah, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Great. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Let us know in the comments below if you have a favorite from today's video, or if you have an idea that you're willing to share.
If you liked today's video, make sure you hit all those buttons that everyone else bugs you about.
And go check out World Anvil if you're interested.
You guys have been awesome. I'm Kat.
I'm Arden13. I'm still waiting on that ramen.
Thank you so much. Bye!